Welcome to the C.L.I.M.B. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. What is leverage? It's a strategic advantage, the power to act effectively. It means when you get into a negotiation, the other side of the table needs you more than you need them. And that's what you're going to need to be successful. That's how you're going to get the label and a deal that'll work. That's how you're going to get a manager. That's how you're going to get a booking agent, is by using leverage. They're not going to buy into you on your potential. They're going to buy into you on your reputation and what you've already done. That's why we called it the C.L.I.M.B, C-L-I-M-B, creating leverage in the music business. That's genius. And that, my friends, those words come from the word man, the lyricist, the cunning linguist, my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter. Brent is an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady Antebellum, Joe Nichols, and more. And Brent helps songwriters like you turn pro by revealing how you write like a pro, do business like a pro, and then he, on a regular basis, connects you to the pros. And you can find Brent real easy at songwritingpro.com. Once again, that's songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. Daredevil has created over 25 national TV opportunities for their indie artists by making them discoverable. They've also created multiple tour opportunities, and through the power of marketing data, digital marketing data, they've attracted a number of investors for their artists. Why? Because investors know that numbers don't lie, because numbers can't talk. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That's production, singular, no S, and there is no S because there is no other Johnny D.
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Hey-yo!
Hey-yo!
I'm doing
Today
all right.
we're going to talk about why it's smart to be dumb.
Why it's hip to be square. Yes, why it's smart to be dumb. And so I have a feeling I'm going to feel really smart by the time this is over.
Which, I mean, by the way, that's just like we talk about trying to be a student of the game and trying to be so much smarter than everybody else. And then now we're like, wait, what? Like,
Exactly.
what? But
Yes.
we're still talking about how it's smart. But in this case, it's smart to be dumb.
Exactly. It's counterintuitive.
But before we get to that, let's take care of a little business here. The C.L.I.M.B podcast is always proud to partner with disc makers who have been supporting indie musicians like you before indie music was even a thing. So when you're ready to make your CDs, your DVDs, some vinyl, distribute your music or videos with customized USBs, go to discmakers.com, D-I-S-C makers.com. It's the only place you need to go.
And while you're there, check out the Guides and Resources tab and download some of their excellent free guides. They've just revised and expanded their home studio handbook, which has a ton of great advice and information for newbies and studio veterans. You can find them online at www.discmakers.com or give them a call at 800-468-9353. That's 800-468-9353.
Awesome. And hey, if you haven't joined the C.L.I.M.B community yet on Facebook, please do so. It is nothing but killer songwriters and indie artists and musicians and singers that are trying to be smarter, and they're in the same part of the journey that you are. So there's lots of commiserating going on in there, lots of good information. Anything that I find in my travels on a daily basis through the news that is pertinent to the community, we post there. So it's a good filter to find out relevant news stories and ask a question. Get in there and start asking people stuff, and you'll start getting some answers. And Brent and I will chime in too if we feel like we can help. So join the C.L.I.M.B community. Subscribe to the podcast so that you get every single episode in order and you can consume them at your will. Make sure that you take 30 seconds and leave a rating and review. Tell everybody else that's thinking about coming in, hey, this stuff's legit. It really works. And then finally, the best compliment you can give Brent and I is to share this. Like, share it on your social media. Share share with a friend, tell a friend if it's helping you, if it's really honestly helping you, then spread the love. There's some good information on there for everybody. So
Right.
That said, we're going to get into this here. I do want to mention
we do have a review.
Oh, let's do it.
A 5-star review, which
Awesome.
is always tasty. This is from Noble Artist 123. The title is, If You're an Indie Artist, This is For You. So 5 stars. Johnny and Brent are killing it. They're pulling back the curtain on the music industry and giving intelligent and useful advice for making it in the music world. If you aspire to make it in the music industry, this podcast is a must. Well, I must thank you, Noble Artist 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Noble Artist.
Thanks for climbing.
Love it. Love it. And so, hey, we're going to get into this. And if you think any of this kind of information would be extremely powerful for you in a customized version, specifically speaking about, your situation as an artist, your kind of music, get in touch with us for a consultation. It's info@daredevilproduction.com and put consultation in the subject line. Again, production is singular. There is no S. And we're happy to take a little bit of time and you make a small investment and you're going to know what you got to do tomorrow morning every time you get up and grow your audience and get your music out there. So here's what we want to talk about. How's it smart to be dumb?
Because ignorance is bliss, and I want to be blissful. So
that's one way. I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah.
Be dumb because I want to be happy.
I mean, the title's crazy, right, Brent?
Yes.
I think that some of us think. I know I'm speaking for myself. That sometimes I feel like I'm the dumbest person in the room. And it probably. More often than you think, I feel like that, you know what I mean? And I think that all of us have felt like that, like we're the dumbest person in the room, at least some of the time. Right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Here's the rub, though. Too many of us react the wrong way in this situation. We try to appear smarter to allay the stupid sensation that is washing over us, right? Mm-hmm. We want to try to all of a sudden prove
that we belong in that room.
Yeah, that we belong, right. We talk too much. We get nervous, a little hyper.
We have to be right.
We got to be right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be right. And you got to disagree. You got to feel like you got to come in with a strong opinion. I mean.
Or tear somebody else down so you look,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And all of a sudden it sort of reduces to this shallow end of the gene pool and you're getting petty on whatever. It manifests itself in a lot of different ways. I mean, nobody truly loves the feeling of being in over their head because it feels a little out of control. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those freaks. I kind of like it. Like if things get too much into control, I mean, maybe that's the rock and roll in me, but if things get too much in control, then I get bored really fast, and I'm like, so when I was in like the top 5% of the sales guys at this huge mortgage company when I was in the financial industry called AmeriQuest. And if you remember them, they like sponsored the Stones tour and they were like partnered with Major League Baseball. And I mean, they were crazy huge, right? Mm-hmm. And during my like third interview to get that gig, I was with the area manager in LA. He's like, what do you think your biggest challenge is going to be here? And I'm like, not being bored and fitting in with the corporation thing because I'm a cowboy. And he laughed. He goes, fair enough. Okay. All right. We'll see how that goes, Yeah. And I ended up being like one of his main guys, but we got along well. But I think that most people it scares them.
Yeah.
Understandably. They don't feel out of control. The trick is how to master it. One way, I don't even have this like in my outline here in my notes, but like the way I learned to master it straight up was going on the road. Like the first time I went on the road, David Lee Roth had it right when he said that there's Murphy's Law, which states that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Yeah. And then there's the law of rock and roll, which states that Murphy completely underestimated the problem. Yeah. This one you think you got it going on, man. There's like, it's another mess. It's some other major hurdle to get the gear to the club on time, to get the show going. But, because you're stuck out, you spin out on a highway with a 24-foot rider truck in snowstorm in Canada, or the tires are too bald and they're not going to let you through the way station, which isn't supposed to be open on Sunday, but they were that day. And you're like, damn.
Or like you were telling me yesterday off air that, somebody drops a box on your toe and it's throbbing. You got to drop by the emergency room for like 4 hours, 6 hours on the way to your gig because your toe is throbbing.
Yeah, man, that's what I was telling Brent. Like yesterday, that really happened. I dropped a huge case on my toe. Have you ever dropped a thing on your toe and you get all that pressure because it's bleeding underneath your nail, and it's just every heartbeat is like a new adventure in pain? And you're like, oh my God. And I mean, we had to drive 5 hours to like Bismarck, North Dakota for a gig. And the roadie, my roadie, who I didn't think, it like was a great LD, but I just didn't really like, I wouldn't have voted for him or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, good God, but like, he wasn't that bright. And he's like, roadie doctor. He always talked like in a monotone voice. And dude, roadie doctor, we're going to take a paper clip and we're going to heat it up under a candle and I'm going to melt your nail and it's going to let all the blood out and you're going to feel better. And I'm like, get the hell out of here. No, fine. We're going to make it. And 2.5 hours later, I can't take the pain anymore. We got to go to the emergency room. Short story, spent 5 hours in the emergency room waiting to get in. When I got in, what did the doctor wheel in? A oil candle and straight up a box of paper clips from like Staples. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. and I would tell you this, that my roadie explained to me that just for anybody that ever has this happen to you out there, because you're working musicians, like if that ever happens, you got to go in close to the cuticle because that's where the nail is the thinnest and you'll melt right through in 2 seconds and that blood will come out and it's like an immediate relief. Right? It's all good. But this dude, the ER guy's trying to go right down the top of the middle of my big toenail. And it took him 3 times and it burns you quick. And you're like, whoa, like it's just so painful. And when I came out from that, I mean, the LD's looking at me like, dude, roadie doctor. I'm like, shut up. Anyway, just to let you know that story. That was nuts. But here's the trick. Like when you're I mean, I was the lead singer in a hair band on tour back in the day. It is a 3-ring circus 24/7, right? That's what was going on. And so you kind of learn, it's also a survival skill to have to master like that that feeling out of control or feeling over your head and knowing that everything's going to be okay, But the trick is you got to master it. And why would you intentionally try to master a horrible feeling? It's because this is the only way that you're going to grow. You're not supposed to be driving all the time, right? A super effective. I'm going to explain a super effective trick in a second, but let's dig into the dumb thing.
Let's talk about being the smartest person in the room or the dumbest person in the room. Like what kind of context are we talking about here? Just to make sure we leave no listener behind. So we're talking like I'm in a writer context. Do I want to be the best songwriter in the room? Or do I want to be the guy that's happy to be in the room? Or if you're, in a band, you want to be the best musician in the band? Or do you want to be the one that's like, I'm the worst picker in here? Is that the kind of stuff you're talking about?
That's exactly it. And like we've talked about this before, but I don't think we can talk about it enough. If you've heard of the 33% rule, this rule states that to be a well-rounded individual, to be the best version of you that you can be, you have to keep your life on a trajectory of growth, and you need a balance of this. You need to spend 33% of your time with your peers, with the people that are equal to you on their journey. And you need this, they're on your level, and you need to spend 33% of your time inspiring other people and bringing them up that are farther back on their journey than you are, and helping them up. But most people fail at this. You need to spend 33% of your time with mentors, the people that are farther along in their journey than you are, and climbing up that ladder and learning, some of the pitfalls that they had, and that they inspire you and they stretch your learning and they teach you to get out of your comfort zone and to grow. Most people choose to spend time only with their peers. Maybe they look happy and feel happy, but they're limiting their own potential at the end of the day. They're not growing and they're not helping others to grow. Right. Yeah.
Or even, with your peers, you're comfortable, right? Because it's your people and you're in the same kind of boat. And if you spend time with people below you or people behind you on the journey, that's a good ego feed because you're the smartest guy in the room. You're the most talented one in the room. You're the one that has the answers, the one people are looking to. It's easier to be the leader. And that's a nice ego stroke.
Yeah.
But that's not really getting you into growth. Personally.
No, that's right. And, it's funny, like I was looking at, I went down the rabbit hole this weekend on, I think I started with Genesis, the Behind the Music Genesis story. And they're all on YouTube. And I was like, oh my God, the next one was like Rat. So I watched that and it was awesome. Right? That's right up my alley. That's from my mothership. Yeah. But the guitar player, the guitar player who died from a heroin addiction,
Mm-hmm.
like when they were in Mickey Rat down in San Diego, like he was the leader of the band. It was like his baby, right? And everybody went to him for all the answers, and he was a leader. But then when the singer went up to LA to check out the LA scene with that guitar player, his name is Robin Crosby, and they went up, and all of a sudden they started another band, and they got Warren DeMartini, who I think was also a San Diego guy, in there. And then things started to take off for them. And all of a sudden he wasn't the leader. And I think he felt out of control from that. And he felt really, it hurt his heart, and he sought something else to take his mind off of it. Right. And it ended up killing him, like in a really big way. And is there anything bigger than me dead? That was the dumbest thing I've ever said.
It reminds me of a quote from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the original movie, where one of the vampires, he's after a human, he goes, kill him a lot.
Yeah, exactly. It killed him a lot. Like, but it wasn't his baby anymore. Right now, he went from being the smartest guy in the room to feeling like the dumbest guy in the room, and it kind of ruined him, like as a human. But when most people stretch out, they move to inspiring other people. Maybe they teach, or they parent, or they mentor. But too much of that can be unhealthy, right? Like if you've got kids. I mean, I know I've got I don't have kids, but my two sisters have children. And there have been moments where I've seen them and they're like, their eyes are as big as saucers when I walk in the room. And they're like, oh my God, okay, I need to talk to adults. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've spent too much time with 3-year-olds and I can't function. You know what I mean? So that's a funny story, but I mean, really that applies in lots of different areas of your life, right? So, so we want to be.
Well, I know for me, I do a lot of coaching. Do a lot of song feedbacks, that kind of stuff. And if you're not careful, that can kind of recalibrate where the bar is set for me. Because I start comparing my stuff to the stuff I'm hearing, which is not the best in the world. Right. It's kind of, I'm coaching, so I'm in a position, I'm
so the curve, it's changing the curve.
I'm helping people out. But that can kind of make my stuff look better to me by comparison sometimes.
Right.
And that's not helpful. What I need to be redoing, is making sure I'm consistently getting in the room with people that put me in my place, musically, and make me go, oh, dang, that's where the bar is set.
Right. So you can be competitive.
The people I'm coaching, that's not where the bar is set. And the bar is not set where I am. The bar is set up here. So it moves that curve back where it should be. So I know that's something to watch out for.
That's not like when you're going down to the 33%, which is a good balance, like a good thing to do, but it's probably not. Most of the information you're going to get from that exchange isn't going to keep you competitive.
Right, exactly. I mean, there's a certain amount of learn by doing, learn by teaching kind of thing to keep things fresh in my mind. You keep saying it to people, and that reminds you next time you sit down to write. And this is not to say I'm better than those people. We're just in different places on our journey. But if, you get all that input and you start, like song contests can do that. You start listening to all these songs and you picking the best out of those. Well, you just got to remember, okay, but when I sit down to write, the bar is not to win the song contest. The bar is, Travis
try to get a cut. Yeah.
Craig Wiseman and, Laura McKenna, and that's the bar. So, yeah.
So this is where, most people fall short. They fail to deliberately schedule time to intentionally make room to be with someone who knows more than they do, even if that means a book. Mm-hmm. You don't get to use the excuse. Sorry. You don't get to use the excuse of, well, I live in, Podunk, North Dakota, and there's no killer songwriters around here, so I don't have that opportunity. There's no big bands around here for me to learn from. There's plenty of books,
Yeah. You got a library, don't you?
Yeah. Or you got Amazon.
Which is only slightly more expensive than a library sometimes.
Yeah. I've got a ton of books like on marketing and digital platforms and blah, 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 that are most of them less than $10, So subconsciously, the reason we don't do it is it makes us feel inferior, and nobody wants to feel inferior, like on purpose, right? Like that doesn't make us feel good. But inferiority can be used to your advantage. And you had talked about being the best musician or the worst musician. I mean, personally, I've made a career out of being the dumbest guy in the room. The educational opportunities in that situation are amazing once you learn to shut your mouth and quiet your brain from the I feel inferior thing.
I'm an imposter.
Yeah, feeling like an imposter. That's right. Yeah. That's the word I was looking for. And really listen. Get yourself comfortable with being the imposter, with being the lowest guy in the totem pole, the lowest girl on the totem pole, and you will inevitably rise. I was the prominent songwriter and the driving force for sure. The core energy in my band when we toured. I was the front man in my band, but I was the least talented musician. The puzzle only worked out if I surrounded myself with killer players.
Yeah,
and then know that that's the formula, right?
Yeah.
Not lament it. You know what I mean? I didn't never need to feel the need to put them down on their musicianship so I could feel a little bit better about it or whatever. It was, I had my role. They had their role.
Yeah. Your role was to be Johnny Rockstar.
Yeah. And their role was to make me look good. Yeah. And sound good. Yeah. Make sure that the curtain wasn't pulled back on the Wizard of Oz. Right? Nobody needs to know that I'm the one running back. That whole thing right there.
I'll be up there singing. You guys distract them from a singing. All right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And if I was the best musician because it made me feel superior, then we would have sucked. We wouldn't have been that good. And so, I dealt with the possible inferiority complex because I was serious about being good. It was more important to me to be good than to feel like I was the best guy in the room, right?
Yeah. You wanted the band to be successful, the team, right?
Because that means I was going to be successful. That means by doing that, by wrestling with an inferiority complex in that department there, every time we played a bar, I was the most famous guy in the room. It was a trade-off, and symbiotically they dealt with me because they needed a driving force. They didn't have that kind of drive to put that thing together. So the result was a whole lot of fun, and lifelong friendships and a life that most people only read about in books. But the reality is that wouldn't have happened had certain people, everybody together understood where their role was, So self-awareness pays off big time. I mean, what if we find ourselves in a unique situation where we're sitting at the cool table, right? But we don't think or feel that we belong. We get that, what you call, Brent, the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you score a killer meeting or an opportunity that might be a stretch for you with a publishing company. As a songwriter, or with a label or manager or a booking agent as an indie artist. This causes anxiety and stress. I don't care who you are. You're like, oh,
yeah.
If it's where you're not, then it's going to be uncomfortable, right? That just comes with it. Seth Godin put the quote best. He said, "Anxiety is just experiencing failure in advance."
Yeah.
I'm going to say that again. Anxiety is just experiencing failure in advance. And that's all it is. So, when you realize that there's nothing, you can't worry about tomorrow. The only thing you can control is right now, right here, right today. And you can't worry about the past because it's already done.
It's gone.
It's gone. It's gone. And so you all you can do is learn from it, but you can't change it.
Right.
So thinking about it too much is a waste of your time, right? One of the greatest gifts, and here's the killer tool I was talking about at the beginning of this episode. One of the greatest gifts that my parents ever bestowed upon me was this quote and this discipline. "It's better to keep your mouth shut and appear stupid than to open it up and remove all doubt." Right? I'll say that one more time. It's better to keep your mouth shut and appear stupid to the rest of the people, which is your biggest fear, right? Than to open it up and remove all doubt. I promise I heard this line about 1,000 times before it sank in. But when it sunk in, who did that become powerful? The most powerful tool. You got to know that people don't know. They don't know what you know. They don't know what you don't know because you haven't revealed anything yet. Sometimes half the room doesn't even know who you are when you're at the big table.
Right.
Right? Because, someone else on the team invited you. They're just assuming that you belong there. How the hell else did you get in? Like, you're not really an imposter, right? Or everybody would be like, hey, who's that guy? I thought it was a friend of yours. I thought it was a friend of yours. Like, hey,
wedding crashers.
Get out.
Yeah.
Like, which I think is probably the fear, right? Like, that's the drama that we run in our head. Like, what? Like, so they're assuming that you belong there because you're there. So just listen. If you're smart, your brain is going to begin to connect some of the dots right there in the moment. Okay. And not all the dots, mind you, but enough dots that if you're asked to respond, you can add a little value rather than detract from the discussion, right? And if you listen, and again, this means listening, step one, shut your mouth, right? Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you're listening, because if you're having your own conversation in your head with your mouth shut, then you're not paying attention to what's going on at the table, and you're missing all the information that you desperately need. To add value to this meeting that you're at. But if you I swear to God, almost all the time, if you shut your mouth, quiet your brain, and listen, you'll often, almost all the time, get the answers from the context of the conversation that everybody else is talking about. And then ask a question if you don't know.
That's one thing I was going to say. I was hoping you're going to get to, because there's, if you're in the room and and you have questions and you feel like an imposter, one way to attack it would be I'm going to be Mr. Right, and I'm going to prove that I belong here, and I'm going to open my mouth and prove myself a fool, prove that I don't know what I'm talking about by saying stupid stuff just because I'm trying to justify my presence in the room and soothe my ego. The wrong way to handle it. However, you shouldn't be afraid to ask questions, because odds are somebody else in the room probably is feeling like an imposter and has the same question, and they're going to be really glad you ask. Or if not, there's still something endearing about the humility of going, okay, I got a question.
Yeah, and so go down that road. So like I asked the question to you. You're superior to me in the room. So I asked the question to you, and we've talked about this on prior podcasts. What happens at that point?
Well, I'm put on the spot because I don't have to answer, but assuming I know the answer,
right?
Then
let's assume you know the answer.
Yeah, it allows me to exhibit my expertise, right? My knowledge. So that
it's an ego stroke for you, right?
Little ego stroke. I know something you don't, and now everybody knows I know something you don't. Hey, that's not a bad feeling. I think.
And are you creating a relationship with that person right then and there, using that humility method, that subordinate method of?
Oh, for sure. And, there's that principle that if you want somebody to like you, ask them to do you a favor. I heard Benjamin Franklin. No, I didn't hear it live or anything, but I heard Benjamin Franklin talked about this, because what happens is somebody doesn't like you. Ask them if you can borrow a book of theirs or something, and they let you borrow the book, because most people are kind enough. At least okay, you can borrow this book, and you give it back to them and you express appreciation. They're going to like you more. Why is that? Because now that we've loaned that person a book that we don't really like, our brain has to justify why we did that. Right? We have to tell ourselves a story to justify, and not just because, it was socially inappropriate to say no and whatever. No, they have to be worth my doing them a favor. So my brain's going to start seeing them more positively, just to justify the fact that I did them a favor, because they must have been worth it.
Yeah, that's right. And you stack the deck just by doing something like that. That's good.
Which is counterintuitive. You think I would do them a favor. If they don't like me, I would do them a favor. But Ben Franklin was like, no, get them to do you a favor, and they will have to justify that you are the kind of person worth doing a favor for, to justify the fact that they did you a favor. So it's kind of like, I thought about that recently with, Hazel. We just brought her home. So she's a baby. She can't do nothing for us, right? I love that little girl.
Yeah.
What has she ever done for me? Nothing. I got to change some poopy diapers. She did nothing for me. Gave me jet lag. Had to go to China. Trying to avoid eating chicken feet, for 2 weeks. She didn't do anything for me. But I love that little girl already. It's been like 2 weeks. Why? I think part of it is because we've done so much for her. Our brains are justifying she's lovable because we're doing the acts of love for her. And it's a God thing behind it in our hearts. But, and you decide. But anyway, that's just something I thought of recently. It's like, get someone to do you a favor. But when you ask a question.
That's really good.
In humility.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not a completely newbie question. I think there are some questions that could hurt you, but
I think that if you're intelligent and you're smart, which means you're keeping your mouth shut and you've quiet your brain and you've listened, then you can find the right moment, right? Yeah. You can find the right question and you can ask a question that is relevant to the top. I mean, what really would be stupid is if you ask a question that doesn't have anything to do with the conversation, right?
It's totally irrelevant. Yeah.
And I've had that happen. I mean, I've had that happen before with my ex-business partner's girlfriend, right? Who just was trying to look important in this room. And she kept asking this question and we're just looking at her like, what are you doing? stop.
Yeah.
Like this doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about,
Right.
But she wouldn't let up, she just was like, and at that point she was already like in the hole.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that scared her more. And it was just like, wow,
yeah.
And it was crazy. I just couldn't believe it. It was like watching a train wreck. You're like, oh my God, for the love of God, shut up.
You're making it worse.
That's what you're thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think a lot of us feel like if we ask a question, we'll look stupid, but it couldn't be any farther from the truth because you ask the right question to the right person, as we said, they'll feel helpful. Mm-hmm. There may be times when you understand part of the information provided. And in cases like this, you can offer up a question such as, I know this, but how does this relate with that? Like, I understand this piece, but how does it relate with that? Like, where are you going? Like, you're asking them again to articulate maybe a little bit more on their vision or their idea or their platform, whatever they're talking about. And like to your point, most people like to instinctively help other people. People also appreciate authenticity and honesty over know-it-all.
Yeah.
You see how this crafts an impression of you. When we first got the first sort of booking contract that took us out on the road for the first time, like we left home for a year, we were out playing like every single week. And, I've told this before, but it bears repeating that the first thing I did was call the booking agency. It was a massive, like regional booking agency. It was a big deal. I said, who's the best band? And that's like, that's Mannequin, and I was like, well, I'm 19 years old. I'm like, I got to go see them, but I can't get in the bar. And they're going to be consistent. They're going to be playing in Milwaukee. I was like, okay. So I'm going to get Mark O'Toole, the manager of them. I'm going to tell him he's going to set it up. So she calls me back an hour later. So I'll set up. Don't worry about it. You're on the guest list. Go see after that gig was done, and I've told this, like I got my butt handed to me on a silver platter. Like, oh, this is what good is. Like, wow. Okay. Bar's a lot higher than I thought it was. Wasn't expecting that one. Yeah. But I took Mark out to eat, like after the gig. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. We go to Denny's. It's open 24/7. We sat down. I bought dinner and just dropped a quarter on him. And got him talking. And he was so authentic about everything, Yeah. And that began a lifelong relationship that served me in so many different ways. I can't even tell you how he helped my career just by doing favors and being a pal, Yeah. But I was just asking, like, I didn't know. Like, how do you do this? Like, what are you doing? Like, how did you get from here to here? How come they're that good? Like, what happened? Like,
Yeah.
And just getting into the questions. So if you default to talking too much because you want people to think you're smart, they don't. They just think you talk too much. And this is especially evident when you don't know what you're talking about, So silence is good. Silence is your friend. Silence is powerful. It's mysterious. Some amazing quotes from Mark Twain, who is a hell of a salesman, right? The right word may be effective, but no word was ever as effective as a rightly timed pause. Right. The right word may be effective, but no word was ever as effective as a rightly timed pause. When that's the moment where you ask, like, for the close on a sale or something. My first guy talks loses, Yeah. And it could take 5 minutes. You're just staring at each other. You can raise your eyebrows, shrug your shoulders, but you can't say anything because then you're going to lose. Here's another quote from him. Drawing on my fine command of language, I said nothing. That's brilliant, right?
That's great. Yes.
And then here's the third one real quick. The pause. that impressive silence, that eloquent silence, that geometrically progressive silence, which often achieves a desired effect where no combination of words, howsoever felicitous, could accomplish it. It just, you got to give them time to think too, you know, and they remember, they don't know what you know.
Yeah.
And they don't know what you don't know. They don't know. So because you're at the table, you're coming with a certain level of, he's supposed to be here.
Right.
So when you truly understand the power of silence, you begin to move mountains, and silence leaves others inside their own heads. They're forced to do the work and to grapple with their own attentions, their own assumptions, and their own past. And let them assume, because that will work for you. Pregnant pauses are incredible tools for making a point. It gives the other person time to process all the information. Man, if there's a traitor in your camp, silence is going to draw them out. Lots of people get angry. Like when you know you've got a Judas, right? When you know you've got a traitor. The main reaction, people get pissed off. And they come and they want to tell you about it. They want to beat up the traitor. Well, there's nothing more powerful. And this is like some real psychological, like Silence of the Lambs kind of stuff. When you just start asking questions and then don't say anything and just let the person stutter. And you're just looking at them and you know, like, I know exactly what's going on here. And I'm listening to you lie to me now, you know, I'm listening to you try to weave this web of deceit. And we both know that I'm not buying it. And then just watch and just saying nothing. And it falls off the tracks, man. It's a train wreck. Like, and you can instigate that, try that. When you ask a question and get a lie, say nothing. The absence of a common and expected verbal reaction will create a vacuum and implode the liar. Their own conscience. Good
parenting skill, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Right. Their own conscience will devour them, and usually right away. But don't freak out if it takes a little while. The meltdown is inevitable if you play your cards right and the liar doesn't leave and bolt. Either way, the seed is planted, and you've silently called them out on their poor behavior. And sometimes maybe it's not a liar. Maybe it's not something as horrific as a betrayal, but maybe it's just poor behavior, right? And that's that. So when you're negotiating, silence is impactful. I'll give you a prime example. So big producer offered my friend, who is an exceptional engineer and producer, but he was getting this gig that he was getting offered was about being an engineer. A mix engineer, and the producer is a big producer, and he's like, "Hey, I want to talk to you. Let's set up a meeting next week. I'm thinking about maybe throwing you like a retainer or something like that because I want to pay you a monthly amount of money on top of what I'm normally going to pay you to mix my stuff, so that I get off the pain of mind list. Right, as soon as I call, whatever you're doing, I don't care. I go to the front of the line, and you get my stuff done because I got." So much work to do, right? I want to secure queue priority on every single one of his projects. So my friend called me because he's, I'm the guy, right? He's like, "Hey, well, how do I deal with this? What do I do?" And I said, I told him, I said, "Look, I don't care how you feel about the number that he offers. Say nothing. Say nothing. Just look at him." Don't look away. Just look at him. And this is not my friend that I'm talking about here, the engineer. He's terrible at this, right? He's horrific at this. He's a horrible business person. He can't, uncomfortableness. He's like, oh, he melts down, and he's a good guy. He's a genuine guy, But I just said, this is going to be the hardest thing you're ever going to have to do. I said, just say nothing. It's going to be painful. The dead space of that silence may seem like a lifetime, but keep your mouth shut. And I promise you, the producer's going to offer you a higher number. So my friend did just that, and the producer comes out and was going to offer him $1,000 a month, which he was already like, yes, that's just free money, right? Like I don't have to do anything for that. Like there's no more extra work for that money.
Yeah.
And he said nothing, and it took like 10 seconds because the producer just as fearful of awkward silences and uncomfortableness. So to get out of it, he's like, okay, how about $1,500 per month? Nice. And then he smiled, shook his hand, and said, yeah, I'll do that. And he said that the pause lasted about 10 seconds.
That's a heck of a per hour rate on that silence.
Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, they kept that relationship, I think, for, I don't know, it wasn't long, but because he's obviously trying to purge out this overload of work, but that was probably like 5 or 6 months. So it was 5 or 6 extra thousand, or no, I'm sorry. That was like, three,
like 10.
That's like $9,000 extra dollars.
Yeah.
For just keeping your mouth shut, right? At the right moment, at the right time. And it was uncomfortable. That the other part of this story
like $1,000 a second.
Yeah. Right? Not bad.
Pretty good.
$1,000. I never thought of it like that. That's right.
Yeah.
But it was uncomfortable for the producer too.
Oh yeah. That's why
because he didn't master it, but he just went in there with the intention of, okay, this makes sense to me what Johnny said, so I'm going to do this. And he was prepared. Let's say this, he didn't master it. He was prepared to be uncomfortable. Yeah. And when he went in there and hit it head on, the other guy was uncomfortable too, and just up the number.
just make the silence stop, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll pay you like an extra $5,000 just to make the silence go away.
How crazy is that, right?
Yeah.
So, bottom line is that you can do a better job of controlling and crafting your artistic life. You can do a better job. Your career will improve when you master these seemingly simple social nuances, right? People are always going to behave like people, which makes them predictable. Sometimes it pisses us off, but when you just are able to realize that they're people and they're flawed, just like you, it's that self-awareness is an amazing tool for keeping everything together on the right track, right? All you need is practice and controlling your own responses.
Yeah.
So, learn how to use silence to push buttons, and you'll typically receive the information that you need to make the best decisions. And one more thing about being at the table, the big table. Remember I talked about connecting dots, and man, there's been many times where I'm at the big table and I have no freaking idea what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like they're throwing out, we need the VIPs and the AMSECs and the D-tracks and they're doing all these fancy acronyms, and I have no idea. Like, what the hell are we talking about? Are we talking even about the music business here? Is this like, is this a car or something? Like, what's going on? And if I just shut up and listen, almost all the time, the answer to the question that I don't have, it reveals itself in the context of the conversation. If I'm just willing to be silent and quiet my brain and relax a little bit, So, you'll get that information that you need to make the decision if you just keep it to yourself and be quiet. Don't feel bad when you're feeling like the dumbest person in the room. Work it to your advantage. Self-deprecation is an incredibly powerful gesture that puts people at ease. When you can admit that you don't know, it communicates decency. They'll learn to trust you and they'll want to teach you. And it really boils down to, positioning yourself as a learner. I remember there's an artist right now that's on like a really big TV show. And I worked with her for a little while, for, I don't know, maybe about almost a year, I guess. And her parents are loaded. Like, he's got a real big business. And they're from the South, deep South. And that was his thing. Like his thing was to try to tell you how stupid he was, because he wanted to see who was going to take the bait. You know what I mean? And he would just bring that up, and he brought it up like 4 times during the conversation, and I would just smile at him every time as we're going back and forth. Now, I'm just a dumb old Southern so-and-so. I'm not going to reveal what he does, but like, he's got a big, like, his company's known down in this area. I just make these things, and I don't know, blank from Shinola, like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I would laugh, and finally at the end, I just called him out, and I was like, you know what? Nobody gets that many stores. As big as you are by being an idiot. So cut the crap. I'm not taking your bait. And I told him that. I just checked him right in the glass, and it was funny, right? It was like really funny because he just wouldn't let up on it, man. I'm just wanting to see who's going to feel like they're smarter than him. Yeah. And it's like, no. I'm smarter than that. But
that's funny.
Anyway, that's all I had to say about that, guys. Man, revel in it, because that's where you're really going to learn. Those moments of uncomfortableness are the growth moments. That's what really separates the amateurs from the pros, the people that are willing to at least put themselves in that position, right? So, once again, if you need if you could be helped with this, a custom crafted plan that can show you, I promise you're going to get immediate results. You're going to see growth right off the bat. Then, contact us for a consultation, info@daredevilproduction.com. Put consultation in the subject line and we'll take care of you. But join the client community, right? Mm-hmm. Subscribe to the podcast. Get all the mini
review if you can. We'd appreciate it.
There you go. 5-star, please. And finally, tell somebody about it. Share the post that we put out on social media. Share them on your social media so that people know, and put a comment in there and let them know what you thought about a specific episode or something like that. But this podcast exists because we want you to win. So keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.